Hello, welcome to your next card. This card is another fancy fold design that stands as a portrait orientation card, and for this you are going to need a So Saffron piece of cardstock, a basic white piece of cardstock. Your DSP colour is Pool Party, and I've gone for the spot again. You will also need a piece of DSP that is So Saffron in colour, and I've gone for the text design. And then you will need some pieces from your little packet of die cuts. You have a So Saffron flower outline, and you have a So Saffron centre that looks a bit spiky. Okay, so to start with, we are going to cut our card base. So you're going to need a trimmer. Okay. And your card base needs to measure 14.9 by 21 centimetres. Okay, so to start with, we're going to cut our piece that measures 14.9 centimetres, and I'm cutting that along the long edge of my cardstock. Okay, you can put the other piece to one side for the moment. We're then going to score at 5.2 centimetres, and then you're going to score at 10.5 centimetres. So then the card folds in half, and then quite simply, this piece here with the score line down the centre, we're just going to fold back on itself, and that essentially is our fancy fold. Okay. For the two extra pieces we need to add to the front, we're going to go back to our So Saffron, and we're going to cut a piece that is 8 centimetres, so I've got that long edge across the top, by 10.5 centimetres. So turn it round, line up at 10.5 and cut. Okay, so next you're going to need a piece of basic white, and we're going to cut this down so that it is our layer over the top of this piece of So Saffron. So we're going to cut a piece that is, let's just check our measurement here, that is 8, so it needs to be 7.5 centimetres, and it needs to measure 10 centimetres wide. Okay, so 7.5 centimetres by 10 centimetres. Okay, that is our piece that then mounts together for the front of our card. Okay, then for our DSP, we're going to cut our piece of Pool Party DSP, and that needs to measure 4.7 centimetres by 14.4 centimetres. And then our So Saffron piece of DSP with the text design needs to measure 10 centimetres by 14.4 centimetres. Okay, so that's all of our cutting done for the moment. So we can now start to layer our card together. And I'm going to start with this piece of So Saffron DSP for the centre. Now before we do anything more, let's just burnish those edges to make sure they're nice. Our score lines are nice and crisp. That's better. This piece of Pool Party DSP is going to go on the front panel. And then our piece of So Saffron is going to go across the front like that. And you're going to secure that quite simply just onto this front panel. So how I'm going to do that, I'm going to put some wet glue just on the first part of it. And then that's going to go in the centre of the card. Okay. So that is our fancy fold. This piece we're not going to stick down just yet, we're going to do some stamping on first. So because this is a photopolymer stamp set, I'm going to use a Stampin mat. and let's stamp a flower. Now, although that this flower has been raised, I've actually stamped it directly onto that piece of card so that we can get the leaves in the right place. Okay, so I'm going to stamp with So Saffron ink. I'm going to stamp that about there. Okay, we need to stamp another one of those onto some scrap basic white, because we'll need to cut that out shortly. Okay, now close your ink pad and bring in a Pool Party ink pad, which is what we're going to stamp our flowers in. So I'm going to stamp the outline, this one here, and I want that so that they are coming out of there. So we'll have one, and then we'll have two. So we're kind of creating a little fishtail with those. Now you'll notice on this card it's been filled in. So the way that I've done that is I've used the infill stamp, I've inked up my stamp onto a scrap piece of card, I've stamped it once, and then I'm going to line that up like so and stamp it over. That will give us just a little bit of infill colour. Like so. So you can't really see it. I'm just going to stamp it again. I think I must have used a different ink pad because this is a new ink pad. Okay, but that's fine. And then whilst we're there, we can also stamp our sentiment, which is happy. Like so. And then this sending lots of, on to the back of your DSP, we are going to stamp that sentiment. I'm just going to pop that on the board. I didn't have that one ready. Okay, so ink that up with your Pool Party and then stamp that directly onto that DSP. Okay, so we now have all of our stamping done, and then we need to stick this piece on to our card. Let me move my stamping mat. So this piece is going to go straight on there like so. Okay, so once you have either die cut or cut around that with your scissors, we can now pop that straight back on our card over the top of the flower that we have stamped. And I'm going to pop that on with some dimensionals. You'll need to make sure that you line this up. Okay, so all I'm doing is I'm lining this petal and this petal up, laying it over the top and then popping it on. We now have these extra pieces, which again we're going to need to layer up. So you're going to look for the piece that has 3 little bobbly bits on and line that up with the petal that also has 3 little bobbly pieces on. Okay, and just pop this on with some glue. There's my 3. Next you can layer on your spiky bit. And then you can either leave that as it is, you can add a gem in the middle, or I have given you a little white flower centre as well, which you can use. So for that, just pop a little bit of glue in the centre and then put your centrepiece on. Okay. All that's left to do now then is to fussy cut around this word happy. You may be using other sentiments, in which case that's absolutely fine. This is the one from the stamp set. There isn't a die for it, so I'm just going to quickly and carefully cut around, and I am leaving a little white border just because it looks a little bit neater than trying to cut out on those lines. Following it round. The trick with fussy cutting is to keep your scissors as still as possible and move your cardstock. It gives you way more control than trying to do it the other way around. And it makes your arms ache a lot less as well. I really must get someone to look at my squeaky chair. Okay, nearly there now. Okay, last little piece. Okay, so we have our little sentiment now, and I'm going to pop that on so that it sits over the top of that flower. Just use little dots of wet glue. Like so. And then bringing in our piece of DSP that we've stamped our other part of the sentiment on. Trim that down. Okay, sending lots of happy. And I'm going to pop this on with some dimensionals. So that is our card front finished. Now all we need to do is add a piece of white on the back to finish this up. So you should have some scrap whisper white or basic white left over, and we're going to cut that down so that it measures 10 centimetres wide by 14.4 centimetres long. Okay. Turn that over. And then stick that down. You can add some extra detail on that if you wanted to. I haven't done that, but it's your card and it's great if you make that your own. I've also added some of the little gems onto that card that are also in your little packet. I've just added those at random. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed making that card today. Thanks for watching.